What's up, everyone? I'm Justin Birkholz. Thank you for watching. Today, I've got something really special for you. I have my very first interview for the channel with my good friend Pete Jones from Good in the Head. Pete has lots of great wisdom to share with us, and we had a really fun conversation. So I know you're going to enjoy this one. Before we get to it, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy my conversation with Pete Jones. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Justin Birkholz, and today my guest here is Pete Jones from the Good in the Head website, slash Facebook, slash Instagram, Twitter, all those good things, and the Good in the Head YouTube and podcast as well. For anyone who's interested, he can be found on all those major platforms under Good in the Head. Now, Pete Jones and I have been friends for, I think it's been 6 years now, since we met on a Facebook group way back in the day. And you've been a consistent source of inspiration and motivational content. I believe you've posted every single day for those 6 years. I don't think you've ever missed a day, which is amazing. So I applaud your consistency, and I definitely want to ask you about some tips on how you stay consistent with that at some point. But yeah, thank you for joining me, and welcome.
Hey, thank you. You've been a consistent source of inspiration and information for me as well. I have missed days in those 6 years for sure,
Yeah.
but I've always tried my best to remain consistent, and I try not to beat myself up. If I do miss a day, I no longer have
Yeah.
to post in order to accept myself.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That's great. All right. Well, I would like for you to just kind of tell us a little bit about your background, why you started Good in the Head, and just give us a little bit, of your background as far back as you really want to go. I know that there was a period of time before I met you and before you started your Good in the Head project, where I know you had struggled with depression and stuff like that. So I'd love to hear kind of your story as to, what maybe brought you out of that and, lessons you learned along the way.
Right. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, I would direct people interested to goodinthehead.com. There's a link to my old story, which has
Hmm.
a long history
Hmm.
of certain things, but I'll kind of get the highlights going.
Bullet points for me. Yeah.
Georgia. I was born and raised in a really great family with awesome parents. No real challenges in life. I was always very loved growing up. We always kind of lived out in the boonies, and so
Okay.
I wasn't really socialized until about sixth grade. And when that happened, that was really difficult. Um,
Sure.
got bullied for years, and
Mm.
my self-image was really poor. I was raised Mormon, which is a
Okay.
really great benefit, I think, for me, and ended up eventually in my teen years starting to gain some confidence. Went on a Mormon mission when I was almost
Okay.
19. I went
Hmm.
into Greece and I lived in Athens and Thessaloniki.
Wow.
Um, Within 6 months, I was fluent in Greek and
Wow.
still speak it to this day, which is kind of mind blowing because I
That's
never,
awesome.
yeah, and that was a really great experience. It really was.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was being raised in the Mormon church, I was socialized and sort of trained and programmed to think and believe in certain ways.
Yeah.
And it was through the realization of my own misperceptions later in life that I realized that I thought I was being programmed to be judgmental and critical and all these human things, and got caught up in my own ego, thinking I'm better
Hmm.
than others, the superiority complex, which is normal in all
Yeah.
religions and most humans, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially teenage boys, I think that's very common.
For sure. I got back off my mission a year later, got married to a wonderful person, have 3 children. We were married 12 years before that ended.
Okay.
For quite a few years, I struggled. In '99, after the birth of our second son, I was diagnosed with severe depression, bipolar disorder, and I was placed on some medications
Okay.
like lithium, Depakote, Depakine. I tried numerous antidepressants over the years. And from '99 to 2014, 15 years, I was on big pharma medications. And it wasn't until 2014, and after multiple suicide attempts and just self-loathing and self-hatred that accumulated over that 15 years, that someone I was married to asked me a question that, hey, in 15 years, have those medications ever once helped you? And I had never thought of that. It woke me up. And I was like, wow, never once do I remember them helping me. They perpetuated this sort of deep sleep. And the lithium, that's almost like an elephant tranquilizer, you know?
Yeah.
It keeps you sort of unmotivated and exhausted and apathetic all the time. And so this person helped me to get off of those medications. And ever since, I've been taking, I'll show you this bottle. And I don't get anything out of this. I just take these things. I don't profit in any way, but it's through a company in Canada called True Hope, and it's called Empower Plus. It's got nothing but natural vitamins and minerals that the doctor reports everyone's missing.
What kind of vitamins, minerals, like what supplements are included in that? Is it like B vitamins, or like what kind of?
It's all vitamins and minerals. And I mean, for anybody interested, you can look the facts up on the internet and get an actual picture of, it's like 70 something different vitamins and minerals.
Oh, okay.
That are literally missing from our food source today.
Yeah.
And those, for some reason, I've been on them ever since. I've tried to go off of them 5 different times, and within a week, I have withdrawal symptoms, and something's off. And so I just take them, and I'm grateful that this doctor actually created and invented these things. His own wife and daughter committed suicide, and he made it his life's mission to find something that would benefit people, and it's certainly helped me out a lot.
Yeah, one of the things that I think people underestimate is the importance of micronutrients to our mental health. There have been studies that have shown that even having low amounts of one mineral or one vitamin can cause severe mental health issues, like just magnesium or something like that. One specific mineral. And with the way a lot of people eat today, eating so much processed junk, they're not getting any of those, micronutrients. And so, something like a daily supplement that includes a variety of things like that can be really beneficial. I take something, I think it's probably similar, and it's like a mixture of a whole bunch of whole plant-based derived, vitamins, minerals, and it has powdered plant material in it. So it's not just isolated vitamins and minerals. It has all the phytonutrients and the other stuff that comes along with that plant. And so I know that can provide a lot of relief to people. Things like niacin, B12, and magnesium specifically, I know, provide a lot of relief to a lot of people. And you just wouldn't know, without trying it. And most doctors don't recommend that. They just say, take this Prozac, take this Wellbutrin or whatever other antidepressant. And I have also been on antidepressants at a point in my past, and I know, what you mentioned, how it kind of numbs everything. Like it's like turning the volume down on everything, and so obviously the idea is that it's supposed to keep you from getting so dark and deep into those dark places. But it seems most people anyway seem to report that it kind of numbs all emotion, all experience, right? So it's like you don't go as deep into the darkness, but you don't really get to experience the heights of pleasure and joy that make life so meaningful either. And I know
Mm.
I've heard that from a lot of people. So, I know you have other practices and habits and stuff you've been working on building to stay
Mm.
well.
Sure,
So I
sure.
was wondering,
Naturally.
exactly, exactly. So I was wondering if you might share a couple of the habits that you think are most beneficial to you that you've found over the years.
Sure. So Good in the Head started in 2017 when a friend of ours from the UK, actually, he lives in Wales now, but he reached out and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about a blog?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "What's a blog? I don't even know what that
Yeah.
is." He said, "It's where you share things that you write."
Yeah.
And so I started doing that. And eventually that turned into a book called My Daily Perspective Shift, which
Yes.
is on the website,
Yeah.
goodinthehead.com.
Yeah. I
And
love it.
that's what I post every single day. It's
Hmm.
just 365 articles that I read one at a time, each day in the
Hmm.
morning, rewrite it and upgrade it in some way, and then repost it. And it's sort of a consistent, repetitive reminder of where I'm heading and where I
Yeah.
want to intentionally go.
Hmm.
And that's been a really great way to start the day.
Yeah.
It sort of primes the pump or intentionally gains momentum for my mind and body in a certain direction. And
Yeah.
so writing every morning has really been one of the wonderful things that I've discovered.
Awesome.
Meditation, breathing, nutrition, exercise,
Yeah.
um, all of these things that everyone knows about, but habitually and consistently, as humans, I don't think that's always an easy thing to do.
No.
And I think that it's important that we do hard things and
Hmm.
that we're always striving to upgrade. Um, Now, before we get too far away from the nutrients and the nutrition,
Yeah.
after all these years,
Yeah.
some of the things that I have discovered that really help me that I do daily
Yeah.
was, of course, the Empower Plus. Um, at night, I take a scoop of three substances. One is called magnesium gluconate.
Hmm. Yeah.
The other one is glycine, and the other one is called inositol. I don't really know exactly how to
I'm
say
not
that.
familiar with that one. Interesting. Huh.
I
I'll have to look that up.
tried it out because for a couple of years, my wife and I were taking Benadryl, which they now are purporting actually causes things like memory loss and Alzheimer's. And I was like, crap, man, it was sort of a sleep
Okay.
aid for us. We don't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
have allergies.
Yeah. Me too. I totally understand. Yep.
But these things, we'll put a scoop of that in our water at night. And then
Mm.
also, I don't know, I'm sure you've heard of lion's mane. This is what it looks like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
dried form, right?
Awesome.
What I'll do is I'll get a coffee grinder and
Hmm.
I just grind it up into a nice fine powder.
Yep.
And I add a few scoops of that every night into the drink as well. And within
Okay.
30 minutes, naturally we fall asleep. We're plenty hydrated.
Yeah.
And those things, that's pretty much all I do. That and some vitamins.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to ask you more specifically about nutrition, so that's great. I know lion's mane is supposed to be what they call an adaptogen. Oh, sorry, I still have the uh, the free Zoom, so we'll have to redo our meeting link here in a second, in 10 minutes. Um, lion's mane, yeah, is supposed to be an adaptogen, which helps your brain neurochemically deal with stress better. So, oh, look, cute dog in the background there. Um, yeah, so a
That's
lot
a
of those
treat.
mushrooms are supposed to be really good for that. So I can see how having some of that before going to bed might help you fall asleep because it's going to help your brain kind of calm down and deal with the stress of the day and let that kind of go. I'm not familiar with that other supplement, that inositol, is that? Yeah, so I'll have to
Inositol, yeah.
Inositol. I'll have to look that one up and look into that one. Never heard of that before, so that's interesting. I so
Oh, Paul
uh,
Stamey, I'm sure you've probably heard of him. He's
yeah,
like the mushroom guy.
yeah,
He was on Joe Rogan's podcast a couple different times, and that's where I first heard about lion's mane. And he
yeah,
said in that interview that people that have Alzheimer's and memory loss that are
yeah,
actually in homes because they need help being taken care of. He said, and no big pharma medications can claim this, right?
yeah.
He said around 30 to 40% of people that get on that within a few months,
Hmm.
this lion's mane helps them to repair the myelin sheath at the end of the
Yeah.
axons in their nervous system, and everything starts firing better.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally get their minds back from wherever they went, and physically because of these reparations. I mean, they're
Yeah.
able to get out back into life, driving, getting jobs again, and living. And I was like, whoa, there's no way.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. This
Yeah.
man's had his life threatened for sharing information, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody that is like, being threatened for sharing something, I'm interested in it. Call me
Yeah.
crazy, but I started doing Lion's Mane a couple of years ago, and my memory that used to be almost broken
Mm.
has come back, and I feel that it has helped me immensely. So I just continue to take it.
Yeah, and that's great, just to let people know that, there is such a thing as neuroregenesis. You can regenerate the actual neurons and the myelin sheathing and everything in your nervous system. So even if you may feel like, oh, I fried my brain doing drugs back in my 20s or whatever. It's not too late. You may have done some damage, but there are definitely ways to repair and regenerate, and you can, become sharper no matter how old or how fried you may think you are. There are ways to kind of rebuild that sharpness and kind of regenerate your nervous system. And mushrooms like lion's mane are a great part of that process for sure.
And I would also interject and add that not partaking in certain foods and drinks and
Yes.
substances is going to be the most helpful thing that
Yeah.
we can do to these human bodies that we're inhabiting, right? I mean,
Hmm.
certain foods and drinks, we all know they're bad for us, but here we are addicted to them, just shoveling in our faces.
Yep.
And when we can begin anew and start over and sort of fast our way into not being addicted to these substances
Hmm.
any longer, and then introducing new habits and practices into our lives, especially when it surrounds nutrients and the
Hmm.
things that we consume, um, our minds heal so quickly. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I haven't taken any big pharma like mind control
Yeah.
substances or antipsychotics or many mood stabilizers, no antidepressants since 2014.
Wow.
And all those dark suicidal
Awesome.
ideations and all these crazy thoughts I was having when I went off those medications, they were gone
Mm.
just overnight. And that leads me to believe that, hey, isn't it possible that, we always see all these things about there's a cabal or a secret society of people with nefarious intent, that are trying to program the people to,
Yeah.
misbehave or do certain things that are detrimental to the society in general as a whole. And we see so many problems nowadays.
Hmm.
And a lot of these people that are wreaking havoc on society and other people happen to be on some of these medications that are supposed to be helping them.
Yeah, I think there was a big, um, possibly deliberate misunderstanding in mental health care for a long time about the actual causes of mental health issues and the best way to treat them. So, a lot of people kind of put forward this theory of the whole like broken brain hypothesis that oh, well, you have low serotonin, your body just doesn't produce enough, so that's why you're always going to be depressed and you have to take this pill for the rest of your life. It was kind of the model that we operated under for a long time. And it was based on a misunderstanding of science in the very beginning. There was never any evidence that low serotonin causes depression. There was some evidence that taking these certain substances that increase serotonin through different methods can help alleviate that. But it seems that it causes more issues down the line because a lot of people aren't aware of the way that these um, psychiatric medications affect the gut microbiome. How
Mm-hmm.
they're actually working on people is by altering their gut, and it wasn't necessarily in ways that were good long term. You know, it could provide short term relief to some people, not even to all people. I mean, you look at the statistics, and it's only effective for like maybe a third of people per drug. You know, and there's a dozen of them, but they're not very effective. They seem to have a lot of negative side effects that can last for quite some time after
Yeah.
people discontinue use. And I think people were misled about the effects of discontinuing use. You know, there's serious withdrawal symptoms from some of these medications that people, even doctors, weren't really informed about. So then they couldn't inform their patients who they're prescribing them to. So I think we were over prescribing those kinds of medications for a long time. And I think people are just starting to realize that, hey, we kind of got this wrong. Like the entire framing, I think, was wrong. It was,
Mm.
oh, your brain is broken. We need to fix this neurotransmitter in you, and then you'll be fine. Except that didn't work for anyone.
Yeah.
And so now people are saying, oh, no, you need to get sleep. You need to get nutrition. You need to go out and get some exercise because those are the things that actually fix the kind of underlying imbalance or disharmony within your body and your life that causes, depressive symptoms or anxiety. And so I think a lot of people are moving away from the, oh, let's just give them a pill kind of model to, well, why don't you go try and get some exercise? You know, how much are you sleeping at night and trying to move that way? So I think that's positive, and I think it's going to be more effective at helping people. I
I
know,
really think that it's important for people to experiment with everything. If you
yeah,
think a pill's going to help you, try it out for yourself.
yeah,
However, also notice other people that have tried it out and see what side effects they are experiencing or have experienced,
hmm,
and listen to others who have actually gone that route before. Before
yeah,
you just start popping a pill. That's
yeah,
something I didn't do, and I got caught up in big pharma and taking pills to fix me when really I wasn't broken. I just needed to sort of create a more habituated pattern of living
yes,
on a daily basis, like doing simple
definitely.
things like nutrition, breathing, grounding with bare feet on the ground, or
Hmm.
meditation. But sleep, in my opinion, is the number one most important for sure.
I think so too. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about sleep in particular because I know from my past that I had a time period where I had pretty bad insomnia. I didn't sleep a lot. And I think that's probably the time when my mental health was the worst in my life was when I wasn't
Mm.
sleeping enough. And I think it's another one of those things that people just kind of take for granted or underestimate the importance of. And I've heard from a lot of people that in time periods where they were experiencing really high anxiety or really bad depression, that usually that coincided with not sleeping a lot for one reason or another. So I remember hearing you say in another interview or something that at one point you were working some job where you really weren't
Mm.
sleeping a lot. You were sleeping like a few hours a night or something like that. So
Sure.
just wondering if you could talk about the difference between like then and now, and how you think that helped you.
Sure, sure. That was in 1999. I was working as a non-emergency transportation driver,
Okay.
Loved that job so much. And I would work anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a day for weeks
Wow.
on end, 7 days a
Wow.
week, on call 24/7 kind of thing.
Okay.
And so sleep was not something that we enjoyed a lot of.
Yeah.
But after a few years, the woman I was working for said, "Hey, you're kind of moody." And that hurt my feelings, And I was like, "What do you mean moody?" Yeah, I was,
I'm
understandably.
sure. Yeah.
That's when I was placed on Prozac, which was the first medication I ever tried. And for 2 months after that, I was Superman, literally. I was on some kind of a crazy high, emotionally, mentally, chemically, hormonally. Just I was different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with a neighbor, I put together a computer, which I'd never even used computers, let alone know how to do that. I quit that job, started another job, went to school full time. I never ever slept more than 4 hours a night on Prozac,
Wow.
and all that I would have to eat or drink was Coca-Cola for
Oh,
2 months.
geez. Oh, wow.
And it's rare that I ate. I lost a ton of weight,
Yeah.
and my wife at that time said, "Oh my God, this is incredible!" And I'm like, "I know, right?" And I was just like, "Wow!" Like
Yeah.
amped up all the time. It was
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
And then one day it all caught up with me, and
Mm.
for no reason whatsoever, I went, bought a gun, quit my job, cleaned up my desk, drove up
Oh,
into the
geez.
mountains, and wrote a bunch of goodbye letters to everybody I
Oh,
loved.
geez.
And I was like, this has never happened to me before. I've never even contemplated such a thing, but I was doing it,
Wow.
and I was serious, And I
Yeah.
put that gun to my head, and started to pull the trigger, and this emotional release happened, and it just flooded out of me. And I looked at the letters, and I sort of like almost an out of body experience where I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. And I remember I was stuck, and I was trying to get out of there just to drive back down the mountain. But I
Mm-hmm.
was so far up in the mountains, it's winter and there's snow and ice. And I just was rocking the van back and forth trying
Oh,
to get out of
geez.
there. And I had
Yeah.
these letters I'd written and a gun next to me. And this woman knocked on the window, and I rolled it down. And she goes, "You need help?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to get out of here." And she looked down and she saw it. She saw it all on the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't say anything. She just said, "Let's get you out of here." And she pushed on the van, and it rolled out of the rut it was stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
And with her help, I was able to then go down the mountain, and then began that 15-year journey of different medications and the efforts to become well again. But I didn't know how important things like sleep were, nutrition, breathing practices, meditation. That all came 20 years later
Sure.
after a lot of self-perpetuated suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Trust me. I went through a long period of depression and trying different medications and things myself. I totally understand that journey.
I
Um,
really have a lot of respect for your journey. And you were a guest on the Good and the Head podcast. And I
yeah, about a
remember
year
a
ago.
lot of the things you shared. Yeah, it was awesome to hear
Yeah.
your
Thank you.
experience and everything you learned on your journey. So thanks again for being a guest.
Sure, you're welcome. Yeah, I think it's important for people to talk about their struggles and stuff. That we're in this kind of society now with social media where
Mm.
everyone displays, oh, look at all the fun stuff I'm doing. And it's a lot of this, kind of I don't know, fronting that people do. Like they only show the best snippets of their life and they try to act like that's their entire life, if you judge by people's Instagram or whatever. And I think it's really important to just be honest about times that you struggled, because I think that's really healing for other people to hear when they're in that dark place, to go, oh, hey, I'm not alone. Because it always feels, for some reason, when you're in that space, you feel alone. Like you're the
Yeah.
only person who's ever felt this, despair.
Yeah, and ashamed.
Yeah, yeah. And you're like, what's wrong with me? And it's not usually you. It's usually your world you live in this environment, and
Mm.
all this crap that's been, poison you've absorbed from the culture and everything. And so I think, yeah, just sometimes just sharing your story about, hey, I went through a period where I was really struggling and I got out of that and there is light on the other side. I think that's a good message, for a lot of people to hear.
Absolutely. That's how we connect.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times there's like these really superficial, relationships that people have. And I think when you actually get to a real relationship, that's when you can actually share, your more personal thoughts and feelings and goals and ideals and stuff. I think that's what gives us meaning, is when we can connect at that deeper level. Because the sort of superficial things, that doesn't really provide much meaning to people. It might be kind of enjoyable,
Mhm.
but I think we really have to connect at a deeper level. And I think
Absolutely.
especially as men, it's so rare for men to have, someone who they can talk to and really speak with at a deeper level. I've heard horrible statistics that, like, it's like less than 10% of adult men ever have a conversation with someone about their goals and their insecurities and stuff like that, whereas it's like almost all women do
Mhm.
regularly,
Oh
because
yeah.
they talk to their sister or their mom or their girlfriend and they actually have real conversations.
Dude, it's like a pressure cooker. If you
Yeah,
can't let that just a little bit out every once in a while, you're in trouble. You're going to
exactly.
blow. The reservoirs of
Exactly.
rage that get dammed up within a human male in decades
Yeah.
can actually result in devastating results. It's
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah. And I think that's, what we see when we have these, usually young men who go out and commit some kind of mass shooting or, something like that. A lot of times they're just young men who have never had anyone to actually connect with at a deep level. They've been so isolated for so long, that kind of isolation just it builds. And yeah, like you said, it kind of can explode. So I think it's
Talking
good,
about sleep,
you know.
there is one interview that about probably 4 or 5 years ago, it came out on Health Theory on Tom Bilyeu's show.
Okay.
And Sean Stevenson wrote a book and has done years of research about sleep, has gone through and shared studies and
Hmm.
little tiny, easy to do tips and hacks,
Yeah.
like how to get better sleep, like no screen time an hour before,
Yeah.
those nutrients like the inositol, the what is it, magnesium gluconate,
Yeah.
and the glycine, a little scoop of that with the lion's mane mushroom once a night in a Propel pack and purified water. And within a half an hour, I'm sleeping. And these are natural supplements.
Yeah.
These aren't some sleep aid that is going to knock you out and make you feel groggy the next day.
Yeah.
He's got a ton of information. So Sean Stevenson on Health
Okay.
Theory, highly
Awesome.
recommend checking that interview out.
Sean Stevenson.
Yep.
Awesome. Do you have any other specific podcasts or interviews that you would recommend? I know you've mentioned Tom Bilyeu's show
Sure.
before.
For financial and mindset gain, certainly impact theory through Tom
Yeah.
Bilyeu. Anything that has to do with up leveling and upgrading health and wellness, he's got a show called Health Theory.
Okay.
And
I
the
haven't
cool
seen
thing
that one.
about, oh man,
I've seen Impact
amazing.
Theory, of course, but I
Sure.
didn't know he had another one. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
And he and his wife also do another one called Relationship Theory, which
Yeah.
is all about upgrading the relationship. So he's got
Yeah.
this great idea of, if you want wealth, like financial wealth and an upgraded mindset, that's why he created impact theory. And
Hmm.
he's consumed so much information through hundreds of podcasts
Yeah.
with super successful people
Hmm.
that it has empowered him to up level every aspect of his life in those
Yeah.
areas. Then he wanted to get healthier and help his wife, who was,
Hmm.
she almost died. Lisa,
I heard her story. It
scary
was
stuff.
crazy. Yeah.
Had everything to do with her gut microbiome. She had
Yeah.
taken antibiotics as a child many, many times,
Yep.
completely destroyed her on the inside.
Yeah.
And now you should see her. Oh my God, the woman's incredible. She's got her own show
Yeah.
called Women of Impact. which is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I'm familiar with her story. I saw an interview with her on someone else's podcast talking about the whole saga, and it was crazy. Yeah, it's really highlights, the importance of maintaining a healthy microbiome, which is something no one even thought about, 10 years ago or so. This is
At
very
all.
recent. Yeah. Very recent science, very recent information, and it can make a huge impact in your quality of life. I know
Some of the guests that, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I've learned a lot about microbiome from, are you familiar with Zach Bush, the doctor?
Oh, love
Dr.
Zach
Zach
Bush.
Bush. Okay.
Everything that he records, I love to listen to it.
Yeah, I for one, wasn't aware of the impact of like breathing in different environments and how that affects the microbiome. I thought that was really interesting. Everyone talks about probiotics and stuff like that, but um, he talks about how your gut is essentially connected to the outside through, your nose and your mouth. And so when you breathe in different environments, in the desert or in the forest or the beach or whatever, you're breathing in different microbes, and in as diverse of environments as you can, you'll diversify your gut microbiome and, optimize your health that way.
Sure. And
Just
we
one
feed
way.
or kill every part of that through our food and our drinks.
Yeah. Yeah, and even things like sleep can affect your microbiome. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
feedback loop, both ways. It's like, oh, if your gut microbiome's healthy, you'll sleep better. If you sleep better, your gut microbiome will be healthier. It kind of goes both ways.
There are a ton of podcasts out there. The more that I would recognize, the Ed Milet Show,
Yeah,
Lewis Howes. He's
yeah, I
got
like Lewis
one.
Howes too. Yeah,
Yeah, Lewis Howes is awesome. He's got hundreds and hundreds of guests that have come on that have completely altered the trajectory of my own life just by listening to their words. That's an inner environment that I consume intentionally, listening to all these podcasts while I'm working every day or driving
yeah,
around or doing things. Dr. Amen,
yep,
AMEN,
yep. Very familiar. Yeah, he's
brain
the
healing,
neuroscientist, right?
yep,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome. Um, Anything by Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Mm,
Bruce Lipton,
okay. Yep,
he's a
yep.
cellular biologist, Greg Braden.
Okay.
He's another one that has phenomenal content. And the thing about all these podcasts is many of the guests on these podcasts have their own podcast. So
I
you
know.
dive down a rabbit hole and
Yeah,
find things that interest you, and it's just
yeah.
unlimited.
Yeah. No, these are some great recommendations, for myself and for the audience. So that's awesome. I'm familiar with most of these guys. I know, like Dr. Joe Dispenza in particular, his work has really interested me in the kind of intentional use of like the placebo effect, essentially, is kind of what he
Mhm.
does. He teaches people how to intentionally use their belief to change their body, heal diseases. I mean, it's pretty incredible stuff. I think the stuff he's doing is very much on like the leading edge of science, where we don't fully know how to explain it all right now, how everything's working. Clearly, something's happening, in his meditation sessions and the people, his students. Clearly something really powerful is going on there, and I'm interested to see, more research into that, and more trying to kind of pick that apart to describe what exactly is happening. um
Sure.
but that's a great recommendation. I'm
You
familiar with
know,
Greg Braden as well.
a lot of these people are trying to shorten the distance between science and spirituality.
Yes.
And we need to, I think, realize that they're one and the same. They complement one another. They're not different or opposed in any way. It's
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza. I mean, his work shows that one thought creates a chemical cocktail filled with hormones and chemicals released in a few different places from the body into the bloodstream. And within 2 pumps of the heart, that blood and all those chemicals and hormones have reached the entire vascular system, 80 to 100,000 miles within 2 pumps of the heart. And that then causes a magnetic pulse to go out from our body that is recognizable, and they show it, it's measurable. And so a thought instantly can create the chemistry, which then magnetizes everything similar to what we're thinking about to come at us. And what we put out into the universe, we get back. Well, everybody knows this. I mean, from experience, we know that if we're angry and bitter and filled with rage and we're frustrated, we have a rough day, because that's all that comes back at us.
Exactly. It bounces back at us constantly. I know. I've certainly been there. Yeah. That's a great tip. So I wanted to ask you about something in particular I've heard you mention before, something called pronoia. It's a term versus paranoia. So I was wondering if you could just talk about pronoia, what exactly that means to you, and why that might change your mindset, your perspective.
I got the idea of pronoia from a guest on Tom Bilyeu's show, Impact Theory.
Okay.
And then I wrote about it, and I remind myself about it, once a year, and the daily perspective shift, right?
Yeah.
But basically, everyone knows what paranoia is. Everyone's out to get me. Oh my God, everything, But pronoia is the belief that everything in the universe is conspiring on our behalf. And there's a thing called the reticular activating system. It's hardware installed within each of our brains. It's the size of an eraser or the end of a pinky, right? And basically, the idea behind this little mechanism is we've got 40 billion bits of information coming at us through our 5 senses per second. That is insane to even try and comprehend. What this reticular activating system does is it decides, oh, that's overwhelming for this human, so I'm only going to allow in to the mind that which is programmed into the subconscious mind. So our self-image, our opinions, our beliefs, the meanings we decide to attach to all things is all that we can have come into our mind. So that we're not overwhelmed and literally combust. And just, we couldn't afford that type of an overwhelm. So pronoia, the universe is conspiring on my behalf. If I repeat that every day when I wake up, pretty soon through repetition, according to Bruce Lipton, especially while we're drifting off to sleep or first waking up, the subconscious mind itself is reprogrammed through that repetition. And to have such ideas as that is so empowering, because pretty soon that little reticular activating system will only allow in the facts, of all that is to come in that perpetuate that idea and that way of living.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. I think that's really important. Like you said, a couple of points there I think are important. One is the fact that the world that you see and experience is directly shaped by your prior beliefs. Two people will see the same scene in front of them and come away with totally different ideas about what they saw, simply because one person's perspective is one way and another's is different. So if you're living, like I think a lot of people today are, in that kind of paranoid mindset all the time, it seems like the world's going to be a scary place, because you're going to see all the stuff that's scary and dangerous out there. And when you shift your perspective from a paranoid perspective to a pronoid, I guess, perspective, it'll appear so much more beautiful to you. I mean, it literally changes the way the world looks to you. And I think that changes the way that you feel. Obviously, if it looks more beautiful and you notice the beauty of certain things more that maybe you would have ignored before because it doesn't stand out to you, that changes your, experience of life, and it changes the way you behave. And so I think both changing your mindset and changing your environment, just to have art and beauty around you, both of those things change the way you see the world, which I think necessarily changes the way that you behave in the world.
Absolutely. And how you react or interact with everything all throughout the day.
Yeah.
I love the whole idea that, well, we all kind of recognize the fact that fear and paranoia is a program, and it's constantly bombarding us through the news, through social
Yeah.
media, through all these different
Yeah.
outlets. And that affects a great deal the most important thing, our self-image and inner environment. If we're
Definitely.
able to upgrade that on a consistent basis, habitually, every single day, in some way, then all those exterior forces that are trying to penetrate and take control of our mind
Hmm.
and be used by external sources for things like purchases,
Yeah. Yeah.
money, energy,
Yeah.
time, attention.
Attention. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we're in charge of this, and if we're not, we can be. It's a choice, and it's a habit. And habitually, we've all been programmed since birth to do certain things to perpetuate a fear-based society that is being
Hmm.
created in order to sell us things that we believe that if we consume it, oh, we're finally going to be happy. I'm going to feel whole
Yeah.
again because I'm so broken. Not
Yeah.
one person is broken or unwhole. We are all that is within. I really believe that if you want to call it a spirit or a soul, that's our true, eternal, divine. Uh, that's our identity. And
Hmm.
this who we identify as is completely separate. But when we can vacillate between and realign with what we are while we
Hmm.
continue to try to upgrade the who we identify as while in these bodies,
Hmm.
then magic starts to happen, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I like how you mentioned earlier that you have your daily perspective shift that you do every morning, and that aligns you to your vision and your ideal every morning before you get hit by news and social
Mm-hmm.
media and angry children and whatever else comes gets thrown at you during the day. I think it's a really good practice to start your day out by aligning yourself and reminding yourself of your ideals, of your vision, of your higher self, or whatever you want to call it. I think that's really important, and I think most people don't do that, and they lose sight of what they really value and what's really important to them and what they really want. They don't even
Uh-huh.
know what they really want because now they're getting bombarded by marketing and blah blah blah, and they think they want this and that, and that's not really what they want, if they search their heart.
For sure. And to
So
know what you want, that's so key in
yeah.
beginning your day well. You know,
Yeah.
my daily perspective shift, if you just Google good in the head, my
Yeah.
daily perspective shift goes to the page. And that's the challenge that I've put out for everyone. Anybody can do this. It just takes
Yeah.
2 to 5 minutes a day. Realign your purpose, your intent, your values with what you actually want for the day.
Hmm.
And then all those exterior distractions throughout the day won't affect you hardly at all.
Yeah. And I think it helps making decisions throughout the day. So you can, my animals are getting into it over here. You can more easily make decisions because you've already reminded yourself of what you value. And the way that we make decisions is by weighing, our values and like, oh, which choice do I choose? And a lot of times people kind of get stuck in this kind of indecisiveness and confusion. They're not really sure, and so it'll help you remind you if you remind yourself of what you want each morning. That'll really help you make your decisions throughout the day. You'll be more efficient at what you do, and it's more likely going to align with what you want. You'll still make mistakes and stuff. Of course, we all still react, inappropriately every once in a while. but I think that's a really good practice. Um, so I did want to ask you, and since you kind of brought up spirituality, my focus since the beginning has really been on spiritual practices and kind of encouraging people to cultivate a personal spirituality rather than like a religious indoctrination. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I think
Sure.
religion has value, in a lot of ways, but I think what really provides the kind of mental health benefits is like a personal sense of spirituality. And so I
Mhm.
just wanted to ask you, what does spirituality mean to you? Um, do you have any regular spiritual practices, or
Mhm.
you know, where are you at in that realm these days?
Yeah, I like that that you can differentiate between religiosity and spirituality, right? Um, like I said, I was raised Christian in the Mormon Church,
Hmm.
um, and that was highly beneficial. Um, Later in life, disconnecting myself from that group and realigning with the who I now identify as in reality with the divine, eternal, vibrational energy that I believe we all are,
Hmm.
simply placed into separate, perceivable, like separate bodies
Yeah.
for experiential learning. Um, I think spirituality is super important. And one podcast that I forgot to mention that I actually listen to a lot is Ram Dass.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love that one.
After he um, passed on and dropped his body a few years ago, that's when I discovered his teaching,
Oh,
finally.
okay. Oh, wow.
And that's where spirituality began for me, really.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, I always thought I knew what spirituality was, but through a lot of his podcasts and teaching, I'm on like episode 216 or 217 now.
There's a
And some
lot.
of those
Yeah.
podcasts, oh, they're
Yeah.
so deep that you have to listen to it. Sometimes I'll listen to the same podcast, I'll repeat all day, and I get something different from it every time. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I never thought of things that way, And
Yeah.
it's just good to experiment with everything, I think, no matter who you are. The results will equate to rewards or to punishment,
Yeah.
in life. And if something doesn't feel right, why would you want to keep doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
If something feels beautiful, why wouldn't you want to keep doing that? You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
and there's such a thing as delayed gratification, where if we wait for the reward we have faith we will sooner or later get from something that is difficult, we're more likely to do that difficult thing repetitiously and create a habit out of it,
Yeah.
like a daily practice,
Yeah.
meditating every day or breathing practices through like Wim Hof. Wim
Yeah.
Hof breathing is awesome.
Yeah.
Grounding. I mean, there's so many things we can do to set ourselves up for success and gain momentum that's gradual and then exponential. If we keep doing one thing, the exponential growth is going to just expand out there. I think it was Albert Einstein that said the eighth wonder of the world is exponential growth.
Yeah.
I don't think he's just
Yeah.
talking about money, the energy, attention,
Yeah.
the momentum of a daily practice.
Hmm.
It's just true for everything.
Definitely. Yeah. I
But
think that's great. And I think also that sometimes people have a very narrow definition of spirituality, and they think it's only like these religious practices. But I think personally, something like Wim Hof breathing, I consider that a spiritual practice.
absolutely,
Uh, y- you
it's a
know,
realignment.
yeah, yeah, and it's for the intention of personal growth, and it helps you be less reactive to people and all this kind of stuff. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a spiritual practice, whether or not you want to believe in any kind of religion or in God or not or whatever. I think that doing something like the Wim Hof breathing or some other kind of breath work, that can be a very valuable spiritual practice. I think your daily perspective shift practice that you do, I would consider that a spiritual practice. You're aligning yourself internally. And so I think it's, great to encourage people to experiment with those things, whether or not they call themselves spiritual or religious or whatever. Everyone will benefit from doing those kinds of practices. And it doesn't really matter what you believe as far as your, beliefs go in the ultimate or in the mystery or in God or in a soul or whatever. I encourage people to try it out. And like you said, you're going to get results out of it. And everyone I know has gotten very good results out of those kinds of practices. So I think they're very, very worthwhile.
There was an interview I listened to. Again, Tom Bilyeu had Emily Fletcher on his show.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that made me finally, after years of not knowing how, it finally made me try out meditation.
Okay.
She describes in detail in her book, Stress Less, Accomplish More.
Yeah. I love Emily
how
Fletcher.
to meditate, and once you begin that 15-minute a day practice, the possibility of exponential growth that comes from meditating and quieting the mind and getting to a silent, calm, slowed place. I mean, the Navy SEALs have this thing, they say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And when we sort of slow down, we're able to accomplish more.
Yeah, I think so. I think when, especially today, we're surrounded by news and all this negativity and all this stress constantly, that it's really good to have a moment where you just let that go. You just surrender that for a second. You let your nervous system chill for a moment instead of being constantly on high alert, like we always are. And I think Emily Fletcher's meditation that she describes is very calming. It's all about just surrendering and just dropping, into the moment as much as possible. I like hers. I have a similar practice that I do that I learned from Andrew Huberman, who I know you're familiar with as well. He teaches something called a physiological sigh, which is where you breathe in twice and then do a long, slow exhale. Well, they did a study where they compared doing that repetitively for 5 minutes. So you just do the 2 inhales, long, slow exhale, and you just do that over and over again for 5 minutes. They compared that to regular mindfulness meditation, to Wim Hof breathing, to box breathing, to all these other, practices head to head in a trial recently. And they showed that the calming effect from emphasizing the exhales, cyclically over the course of 5 minutes, was the most beneficial across every metric versus the other practices. And so what's really interesting about that is the kinds of practices that just calm you down as much as possible tends to have the best results as far as focus, energy levels, sleep, whatever, mood levels, everything throughout the day. So I think having a moment where you really let your nervous system relax and surrender through either a meditation like Emily teaches, like that style of meditation, or through something like the cyclical sighing breath work, is really beneficial. I know I've added that in. That's been a kind of recent thing for me this year. And that's been huge for me. And I do that. I do mine before I go to bed, and that helps me relax, and it tells my nervous system to calm down. And helps me go from working, doing whatever, to sleeping a lot quicker.
Nice.
That way myself. So
I love that you brought that up. That Andrew Huberman's breathing technique is something I use every day. I was just using it that entire time that you were talking.
Yeah.
Box breathing and Wim Hof breathing, I use all three of those every day. And
Yep.
I tend not to think about it because now it's automated. I've been
Yeah.
doing it for a few years.
Yeah.
And that is hugely beneficial, especially in an instant need to calm
Yes.
oneself,
Exactly.
especially at work or road
Yeah.
rage or anything.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah,
It's
and
so helpful.
it's like that fast, you do one round of that, maybe two, and it'll totally change your mindset, especially like you said, the road rage thing or something like
Sure.
that. If I notice myself getting really angry about something, like, hold on, Justin, just take a deep breath here. You don't need to go off the handle at this guy, or whatever.
Yeah. It's fun, the idea of letting go. Okay, so years ago, it was 2014, I started reading a little tiny excerpt from a book from Melody Beattie
Yeah.
called The Language of Letting Go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for years, and I still go to it on Google
Mm-hmm.
and I'll type in The Language of Letting Go and then today's date.
Yeah.
And it brings up just a little paragraph, and it's
Yeah.
a great way at any moment throughout the day, especially first thing in the morning, to sort of realign. And that taught me boundaries. That taught me how to live better,
Yeah.
And we don't meditate to get better at meditation. We meditate to get better at life, right? That's what
Yep.
Emily teaches in her book.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same with breathing, same with anything
Yeah.
we do. We do it so that we can get better at life.
Yep. Yeah.
David R. Hawkins wrote a book called Letting Go, and I highly recommend that book as well. But as far as a daily practice, every single time that I do a Wim Hof breathing and then a meditation, I cycle straight into the repetitive reading of something that I've taken a few years to sort of upgrade. And it's always a progression, but if it's okay, I'd love to read it. It's a kind of, some people will think it's long, but it's something that I read every single time that I meditate.
I would love that.
It's sort of a compilation of all of the most important ideas I've learned over the years
Oh.
from a lot of different sources
Oh,
that
okay.
I wanted to repeat,
Yeah.
especially in a meditative state, so
Yeah.
that subconsciously that's the program I'm operating from.
Okay, awesome.
They say, especially who is it? Bruce Lipton. He says, 90 to 95% of our lives is created from within, and we render our reality through the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So how important is it then that our self-image, our subconscious beliefs, the automatic programming, that we operate from, how important is it to upgrade that? That's
Definitely.
like everything.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'll go ahead and read it. It's like 4 pages long. So it's maybe lengthy to some people, but for me, repeating these things is super beneficial just for me, So
Yeah.
I just wanted to share it because
Yeah.
one little idea may benefit someone in some way someday.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Sounds great.
Okay, and the idea is all about letting go, what to let go of. So I let go of the illusion of control of other people, things, situations, and circumstances. Everything unfolds perfectly as it needs to for the greater good of the collective whole at all times, despite our best efforts to control it into being what we want it to be. Homeostasis and balance, therefore, is always occurring. I let go of all of which I've been programmed with since birth, all outcomes, ideas, beliefs, feelings, wants, needs, desires, and dreams. I let go of the human condition of judgment, criticism, condemnation, guilt, and shame. I let go of the need for any ideas of progress of any kind. I let go of the anger, bitterness, rage, and frustration for all generations, and I alchemize that into perfect unconditional love. I let go of all fears and the need for acceptance, love, and appreciation of others. I let go of all opinions of others and the need to be seen in a certain way. I let go of the need for validation of worth from others And I let go of all expectations, for expectations are the mother of all disappointments. The only thing faster than the speed of light is the speed of love. Love is quantum entanglement. Letting go is the action part of faith. It is a behavior that gives God and the universe permission to send us what we are truly meant to have. We can be both a masterpiece and a work in progress. It is what we truly are that allows this. We do not have to run away from anything. We are divine and eternal. We are never alone, but we are one. Expectations are a filter through which we judge. Expectations are premeditated resentments. As we let go of everything and reconnect and realign with our true nature, re-identifying with, through, and as all that is, we are not doing, we are being done. All things come through us, not to us. We already are all that we seek while in human form. We're 100% responsible for the internal personal reality we create, manifest, and attract before we project it into existence. Everything is an inside job first. We project all that we believe we are, and by so doing, we render our reality. Letting go sets us free and connects us to our source energy and pure consciousness. Letting go creates the optimum environment for the best solutions and best possible outcomes. It allows us to truly be healing. Let go and let be. No judgments, no criticisms. I allow it all to unfold exactly as it is, perfection. I think it is highly likely that we are living inside of a sacred, geometrically perfected hologram where everything is an illusion we project both individually and collectively as one. Energy flows where energy flows where attention goes. We are in all that is, and all that is inside us. That every atom, molecule, organelle, and cell exists, all that is, just like in a hologram. When we feel, we heal. We can choose to feel everything, then let it go. Letting go is how we alchemize everything into perfect, eternal, everlasting, unconditional love. I let go of the belief that anyone needs to be anything like me. Everyone is exactly where they need to be. Everything is perfect exactly as it is, balanced and harmonious. Let go and let be. When we breathe and align with our divine nature, we are healing, and we release the trapped energies and reservoirs of rage within us forever, and we melt into love. We are one as all that is. We are all part of the one whole. Letting go allows the divine, eternal energy that we are to flow freely through these bodies or these soul pods, which we temporarily inhabit. I believe it's possible that this life is the ultimate VR experience for experiential learning. My eternal prayer is this: please clear me of the habituated human practices of disapproval, criticism, judgment, and condemnation of other people, situations, and things. Please empty my subconscious mind that it may forever be filled and programmed with the unconditional love, appreciation, acceptance, kindness, compassion, understanding, empathy, peace, safety, strength, comfort, and prosperity that I am. That's my meditative, repetitious, habitual practice that I try to live in accordance with and realign with every day through repetitively reading it right after meditation.
That was great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I thought that was really beautiful. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
I can see how that could be a really transformative practice. As you were reading it, I was reminded of the power, that we call magic, essentially, of the power of spoken word. And just reading something like that or saying something like that, as you're saying those words, you are putting that into reality. You're manifesting that reality. And especially, reminding yourself, but just the act of saying it, changes your internal chemistry. It changes your aura that you're radiating. I'm sure your animal could pick up on the change in your energetic state as you read that. And so I really appreciate that. There were a couple things that really stood out for me. I thought it was all really beautiful and profound, but one of the lines I really liked was you said something about letting go of the need for other people to be like you.
Mm,
I think that is a really profound kind of realization, because so many people get caught in the trap of believing that, oh, if everyone else was just like me, everything would be perfect in the world. It's this kind of idea that people don't say it out loud, but they definitely believe that, and they act like
sure,
that, and they try to
sure.
manipulate other people to be more like themselves. And I think they're kind of missing the point. It's that our individuality, our diversity is really what makes us beautiful and strong.
I love that.
Our species, our strength as a species is due to our diversity of thought and ability and everything.
Not in conformity.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that's a really good thing to let go of. I think that'll really change the way that you interact with other people to be much more um, loving and compassionate and beneficial for them, if you're not trying to make everyone be like you. If you appreciate people for their own individuality and uniqueness.
Absolutely. Greg Braden introduced this idea one time, and something he said was, that universal consciousness uh, informs itself through its creation. And instantly I thought, what more beautiful way to inform the greater one self, the energy that we all are, than to infuse itself and to download itself into trillions and just limitless experiences
Yeah.
simultaneously all at
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
Like, and that's when I treated my dog better. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's an extension of the great I am.
Yeah.
That's when I started looking at things so differently.
Definitely. Definitely. So I really like that. And then there's um another section. I'm not exactly sure of your specific words, but it said something about leaving space um for the universe, or for the divine in your life.
Hmm.
I forget what your exact words were,
I think that was
but
Melody Beattie's quote. Letting go is the action part of faith. It's a behavior that gives God and the universe permission to send us what we are truly meant to have.
yes, that line, that's exactly what I was talking about. I love that. That's great.
Melody Beattie is an amazing human being. And
Yeah.
anything that I've been able to read of hers or listen to, which is rare because she's just not on the grid really. But
Yeah.
her books are amazing. The Language of Letting Go changed me forever.
Yeah, that's a good one. I really like that idea too. It aligns with something I've been saying for a long time, is that if we try and control everything and plan everything, we don't leave any room for the universe to have our back, to manifest things for us, to help us out a little bit. We don't leave
Yeah,
any room or space for grace, as I call it.
I love
And
that.
so,
Michael
yeah,
Singer, recently, him and Tony Robbins' wife, they put out this video. It's about an hour and a half, and I had to listen to that one every day for almost a week, over and
wow,
over, to really get the depth and the meanings behind it all. But he said, letting go of preferences,
yeah.
you know, the great way is easy for he who has no preferences, says the Tao.
Hmm. That's really interesting. Yeah, that reminds me of kind of parts of yogic philosophy. They talk about they call it essentially a word that we would translate as desire and like repulsion. So
Mm,
they talk about preference split up into preference for and preference against. And
mm,
there's specific practices within traditional yoga where you kind of uncover those preferences and try to work against them to try and kind of balance yourself out. And it changes, once again, it changes the way you see the world. Like we were talking about earlier with the reticular activation system, when you have preferences, that shapes the things that your mind picks out of your perceptions, and it changes the way you see the world. So if you
absolutely.
really want to see reality, as it is, kind of, I guess, which is not really possible in a human body, but as close as possible, you got to be able to at least set those aside, for moments. Like obviously we always are going to have different preferences, but I think it's really handy to be able to at least set those aside for a time to try and see more objectively, and that'll allow you to make
Mm.
um, more clear-headed decisions and stuff as well, I think.
Well, especially when we're young, I think we get caught up in the human experience and we identify as a human.
Yeah.
And then later in life, we realize, oh, I've spent all this time and energy and attention becoming someone,
Hmm.
only to then realize later that becoming nobody is the key to that balance.
Yeah.
We dive in and live life, do
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
experiment with everything, enjoy it all, go to the extreme, and then find balance and peace and comfort and silence within, and just do you and accept it all as part of the human process. We're here for the reason of just the experience.
Yeah. Experiment, try things out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we are here to learn or for something to learn. The
Uh,
divine to learn through us, or however you want to, picture that. I think that's the point of living here. And so I think having an open mind is going to be extremely useful in that.
we all get so caught up in judging and criticizing ourselves
Yeah.
that becomes a habit that we project onto others. And then pretty soon we're just so caught up in judgment and criticism and preferences and projecting our opinions and beliefs onto others that we lose sight of the possibility of realignment with our true nature, with that divine energy that we all are.
Yeah. Or
Let
seeing other
go.
people for the individuals that they are. When we
And the
judge
beauty.
people, we
Yeah.
put them in these narrow boxes
Mm-hmm.
and we forget about like 90% of the person. We focus on this one little thing and we narrow in on that. And
Mm-hmm.
people are just so multidimensional. I think it's good to keep that in mind.
So
Um,
limitless.
yeah. Yeah, and the fact that people can change, I know I've changed dramatically in points in my life. It sounds like you have as well. I
Yeah.
think if someone knew you 20 years ago versus today, they would probably say you're a very different person.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I
I've
think,
gotten comments. People say, "Who are you? And what
yeah,
did you do with this guy I knew? I want
yeah,
in. Did you start a religion? I want to
yeah,
be baptized." I'm like, "No, dude. Just trying to tweak it and upgrade it
yeah,
so that I'm not such a waste of oxygen." That's how I thought of myself back
yeah,
then.
yeah.
And I know that through your practices and your daily adherence to certain habits, I loved your interview because I saw the beauty of the person,
Thank
the
you.
human being that you have worked hard to become. But stepping back from that all, I see you as an extension of myself and everyone. Same thing. We're all one.
Definitely. And it's just such a beautiful way to see the world. I mean, how much more beautiful of a perspective is that as being one of something so great and so vast and infinite. Just that perspective alone, I feel like is so good for our soul versus the closed off, isolated, oh, I'm an island in myself perspective.
Yeah.
That just kind of loads shame and darkness on yourself when you live like that, versus seeing us all as connected. It just changes the way, like you said, changes the way you treat your animals, your friends, your family, all of that. So
Especially the way you treat yourself.
And yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of people struggle with self-worth and believing in themselves that they are worthy of love and have something worthwhile to share with the world.
Mm.
And I know I saw one of your messages lately on Facebook that was talking about how if you can make a difference essentially in one person's life, that's worthwhile. And I think a lot of people get caught up in the idea that they have to start some grand revolution or have some New York Times best-selling book or sell a course to 100,000 people, and that's what makes you important. And
Mm.
I disagree. I think that the way that you live your life, the way that you treat your family and your friends, and maybe the way you inspire one human being, that makes you important and worthwhile. And every single person has some kind of message, something they've learned that can help with someone else and connect with someone else. So
Absolutely.
I think everyone should not underestimate the impact that they can have on others, through small things. And I think small things are really important, just expressing love or gratitude for someone or being generous to a friend or something, whatever small thing. I think all of that is very important.
I
Yeah.
do too. Wayne Dyer, Ram Dass, so many people have mentioned that a guru or a true teacher or a soulmate is someone who triggers you immensely and shows you where you still have work left undone. And I
Hmm.
love that idea. And so, I mean, we create these environments in which we feel safe, but I think it's also important to challenge oneself by being around people that,
Yeah.
really get me going.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I got to realign. I got to remember what I am and who I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
very
Ram
important.
Dass had a saying I really like where he told someone, "Oh, you think you're enlightened? Go spend a week with your family."
Yeah.
See,
they know better than anyone how to trigger
see
you,
how
you know?
enlightened you feel now.
Sure.
And I think that's really great. And that's one of the things that I tell people is, if you're on a spiritual path or something, is it improving your relationships with your family, your friends, those people who have the ability to get under your skin? Because that's where you can tell where you're really growing. It's easy to be happy and whatever to people who don't matter to you, or brush it off. But when someone who matters to you gets under your skin, that's where our real character can come through. So I really like that saying of Ram Dass, very down to earth spirituality from him, which I've always appreciated.
I
Well,
love it.
Pete, I think we've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover here today. It's been really great speaking with you here. I think you've had a lot of awesome wisdom to share with everyone. And so I know obviously your website, goodinthehead.com, is a great place for people to find you. Good in the Head on Facebook. Is it the same on Instagram? Same
Instagram
handle?
is good in the head, all one word. Twitter and Good in the Head podcast is currently only on YouTube. I have yet to
Okay.
upload that to multiple platforms.
Okay, great. So those are all ways where people can connect with you. And I highly recommend anyone watching or listening to follow Pete on Facebook. Good in the Head is a consistent source of motivational and inspirational content. Like I've been saying, pretty much every day. There's just great messages on there. If you ever need a pick me up or some kind of inspiring content, I just highly recommend everyone go check out Pete's stuff there. And on the website, there's all kinds of information and tools available. I know there's a whole bunch of different sections on there. There's the daily perspective shift you talked about, which I think is a really good resource for people, to pull that up every day. And I saw you had other tips on meditation and all kinds of stuff going on the website there. So I encourage everyone to check that out. And yeah, and thank you, Pete, for joining me today as well. It's been really
My
great.
pleasure, Justin. I really love and appreciate you and Heather and all you guys are doing to empower the world with your messages. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep it up. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Pete. All right, well, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Pete as much as I did. I have lots more coming for you, a lot more interviews that'll be on the way here. I'm planning on turning these into a podcast and distributing them that way as well, as soon as I figure out how to manage that distribution. And once again, huge thank you to my sponsors, my patrons, for supporting my work. Your support is greatly appreciated. If anyone else wants to support me, I have links down in the description to all kinds of stuff. But I especially have a link to my latest book, Luna, that just published last week, and that is now available for sale. So I'll have a link to that one for you, for anyone who's interested. All right, have a good week.